being on the call today for Justice University Class 10, where we're going to feature your presentations to let us know what you learned from the course and what you feel you can do in order to advance the ideas you learned in the course, because we need your help with that. We hope you've enjoyed these 10 sessions, and we look forward to using this as really a foundation for effective action in the future. So we've been covering, as you know, the basics of the just third way. This is really skimming the surface, but it is meant to give an overview of a paradigm. And we hope that others will follow in your footsteps and take this course and let others know about it. But as we've mentioned, it is a shift in the way people will see the world, how they'll understand the problems in the world, and how they can go about solving them. We've covered the basic elements of the just third way in terms of what we call the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the dignity and empowerment of every human person. And this includes the way that each person can be a productive participant in the economy, so they will be due, as owners of both labor and capital, their just distribution. And we also learned about the concept of social justice as articulated by Pope Pius XI and Father Ferri, in terms of how every human being should have equal access to all the institutions of the common good and be able to access them fully, and also how they organize together with each other when either access to the common good is not equally accessible or the institutions in the common good are flawed. We also went over the idea of binary economics as the logic of a free market-based economy that has within it also the principles of economic justice embedded in them. So in order to make a free market system work, be in balance, and enable every person to participate fully in the economic system. We also covered the 3 principles of economic justice: participatory justice, which deals not only in economics with how you contribute through labor, but also through your ownership of productive assets, which are becoming more and more the predominant means of producing in the economy. We also talked about distributive justice as the logical counterpart to participative justice, that when you are basing this on a private property framework, then each person will know what is due to them as an owner and a contributor. And the third principle, going back to the idea of social justice, looking at it at the level of economics, it is the principle for how people organize to, number one, detect imbalances in the economic system, either at a macro level or at the level of enterprise, how to identify the problem and correct it while applying the principles of the just third way. We also covered the 4 principles, or the 4 policy pillars of a just free market system, which is, depending on the order that you want to look at the pillars, we can start with the missing pillar, which is equal access to capital ownership by every person throughout their lifetime, and particularly in terms of access to money and credit to become owners, using the future profits of the asset you acquired to pay off the loan. And we talked about the system of banking, the monetary system, credit system, and the tax system, but particularly money as an institution, why this is so critical to change. We talked also about the idea of limited economic power of the government, why power particularly economic power, must start in the hands of each person, or otherwise it will tend to get concentrated and will have the kinds of problems such as inflation and poverty and racism and war, which are some of the products of this unequal opportunity to become an owner and have economic power. We also talked about the role of private property as essential, as an objective way of determining what each of us is due in the economic process based on what we contribute. Also, the idea of, the free and open market system as the most democratic way of determining just prices, just wages, just costs, and just profits. If you have everyone able to compete as a full participant in the economy. And finally, the five levers of change to move from today's system, which is a wage welfare system, to a universal capital ownership system. And that's really just looking at the economy, but more fully in terms of transforming to a just third way social system, political, social, economic system. And so that included, number one, the money system as a lever of change, the tax system, the role of the government, education, and technology. That all of these, depending on how they are used and structured, can either increase the danger and the crisis we face, or they can alleviate the problems and truly empower every person throughout their lives. So that is just a quick summary of what this 10 courses covered. We encourage everyone to continue studying these ideas, critiquing them, challenging them, writing about them, teaching other people, because whatever we've come up with is the best. We've been able to synthesize and distill the ideas of many seminal thinkers, including Louis Kelso, Mortimer Adler, Pius XI, and Father Ferry, in terms of their sociological advance in the ideas of the social virtues. Buckminster Fuller, in terms of his physical design science concepts, which will make possible the change in terms of how we produce and how we deal in the economic order, not only with each other, but also in terms of the planet and its own sustainability. So Bucky Fuller gives us some principles that we should look at. And also really the challenge that each of us has to not be the victims of the future, but the architects. And his challenge is, I think, the most universal and global and completely stated way of looking at what we need to do to change the world. We also look at the ideas of Martin Luther King as a social activist who brought principles of peaceful people power, bringing that to bear in order to change the system. And we covered a number of other thinkers as well.
Just a quick word of congratulations from the volunteers who developed the online platform, Mark, Ian, Roland, and Dave. We really appreciate your time and effort going through this course because we believe these ideas are very important, and we're thrilled that you had enough interest to do this to learn more. Welcome to the Just Third Way movement. It's great to have another knowledgeable person who can spread these ideas by talking to others, volunteering, and even building projects that utilize these principles. We would love to hear your feedback about the course. You really took in a large amount of valuable information. To complete the certification, just follow the instructions on the lesson page for ways to give a brief description of how you would apply the principles you've learned to a specific situation. As a tip, include the main thing that our paradigm brings to any problem opportunity, and that is answering the question of where does the money to help solve that problem come from? As you have learned from our gurus, Norm, Dawn, and Mike, it's all about using credit the right way, which is for feasible projects that will repay using future savings and also produce income for all involved. We wish you success in your efforts advancing economic and social justice. And remember, own or be owned.